Hi everyone, it's Tracey here from Art Fiber Stitch. We're going to have a look today at creating a tonal background for a further slow stitch project. So I have some white, light coloured lawn or cotton in the background. I've cut out some different bits of like a white netting. I've cut out some very pale bits of silk or chiffon or something that's see-through, and I'm putting a very, very pale pink on top. It's a cotton organza. But I'm looking at it and thinking, well, that's very insipid, but you know, it's teaching us. If we put another layer of that same cotton organza underneath, can you see how it really brings the colour up? So, and here I'm adding some white. I'm just going to cut out some basic flower shapes, but white on top of the white, will that show up? It is very subtle, different tones. And what is a tone? A tone is like when you have a colour like blue, and it can be the very palest blue or the darkest navy blue, and everything in between, those are tones. So let's have a look here. If we put these white on the white, well, it's small white, see, because it was a bit see-through, and that shows up even more. So we've got a few different tones there of, what do we say, a peachy colour through to white. And I try some other things. Here's some wool, and I'm just pulling it apart a bit, unraveling it, tying it into a sort of a loose kind of bundle there and popping it under, and what would happen then? Well, I don't know whether you're picking that up, but it really is quite interesting. You do see it, and because we have that very, very, very pale pink organza on top, it's sort of tinting everything in that very pale pink. But, you know, we don't have enough robustness for me. I'm grabbing out a few other things. I've grabbed out a black satin. I've grabbed out a nice bit of a curtaining offcut that had this interesting print on it. It's see-through as well, and I can see the black through it, and I could use that if I wanted to do something misty looking. But you know, the way I do these things is that I just like to experiment. So I'm going back to the white, and I'm thinking I might pop some of that curtaining, that white with that grey print on it on top, just like that. And then I thought, that's my background. I'm going to add some bits to that. So I started experimenting. Okay, I can use that mesh again, but I'm still not really picking it up. Yeah, bits and pieces of very pale, you know, and see-through fabrics so that you can see the layers underneath. But I'm still not there, I don't think. Yes, I do get variations. When I pop that on, I get a really nice subtle colour, but not quite right. So I'm going to experiment with this black satin that I got out. I'm going to rip a bit off that's big enough to go from one side to the other and just see, does that show up? Well, it shows up as sort of a very, like a grey, pinky grey. And if I put the white on top of that, see how it really shows up with the dark underneath? So it's a real good fun thing to look at different tones that we're getting by layering. And I have this white still. I keep playing with that. I have this as well. This is a lovely silver net. It's like a fishnet. It's a fabric. Now, see how it's curling up there? If I put it the other way down, so that the curl goes downwards, that will stay there better and flatten out easier. So I'm looking as well, what about, could I put something on top? I'm playing around with this mesh, and I'm playing around with that curtaining fabric and leaving layers on top and thinking, does that show up? Well, it certainly does on top of the black. You know, it's a real... It's a very good experiment in colour. And all I'm doing is making a background I'm going to add to this later. But what I want is a really interesting, I'm only going to go the 2 shades. I'm going to go that grey through to white and the white through to that peachy, pinky, whatever that colour is, apricot. So, now the way I'm going to do it is this. See this? This is a fusible web, and it is a glue-like webbing, Visifix I call it. I don't know what you call it, but it's paper backed. Can you see there? There's the paper and there is the webbing of glue. My idea is that I think I'll bring it back. I'll have the white underneath and I'll have that interesting curtain fabric on top. But then I'm thinking, let's trap some things before we put the pink down. I'm just trimming back at the moment so that I've got things roughly the same size. I really love that print. Now you look for the paper side or the web side. So you want the paper side up. And then you would want to iron it, and you would iron it down. But I'm thinking, hang on, before we do, why don't we add in a few more things? So there's method to my madness. I'm grabbing some black, different thicknesses of wool or cotton, and I'm just thinking, how about I lay some little short links of that? It would look the same as that basic print we've got in the background, but this would be further forward. You know how things in the background fade away. So, and this is stronger, this colour. So I'll just pop a few of those in first. I'm going to add more, but I'm thinking let's add this first, and then we'll put the paper-backed gluey webbing on top of that, and we can iron that and trap those threads between that curtaining fabric and the webbing. So that's what's going to happen here. Now, as long as I iron that on the paper side, it's all good. It's not going to stick to your iron. So if you don't have that, then you could use greaseproof paper or a special mat, especially for that purpose. But see here, you can actually pull that paper off, and what you end up with is there's the paper off. We have all of that glued. That's a glued surface. And now I can add other bits. So I'm going to just make a collage up. I'm going to put a little bit of that black. I'm going to put in some of that net. Like I said, see how that's curling up? Turn it over. That's much better. And, you know, that'll shine through. It'll just, it's subtle. We're just aiming for subtle tones. We could bring more out later when we want to stitch or something, but we're just aiming for a nice misty kind of background. So I have those dark threads already in there, and they're stuck there. That's the beauty of this webbing. And here I'm thinking, well, I could actually use some more of this. You know, it's gonna, it could be the same. We could just have it and have more markings there, or we could put it on top. You know, choices. We play. See, there we are with the pink. See how it made all of that grey and all of the black and the silver a subtle shade of that pinky colour. And I keep playing with this interesting net mesh stuff that I have, but I never see it. And then I'm thinking, well, probably what I need is maybe something underneath it. I'm grabbing some silk. You know, you could use chiffon, you could use a lot of things that are see-through. And if I put that underneath that, now I can see it. So that's what I want. I'm going to put some little bits of that there underneath with that on top. Now it's showing up. So I'll keep adding little bits and pieces. Like I said, I had some of this wool and I was trying it in little unraveled bundles, you know. Maybe that's a flower, maybe it's something else. I'm not being too specific, but it just adds another tone in there. So there we are, and I put some white flowers in. I'm looking at, can I use some of this curtaining on the top? Yeah, I could. If I did, I would be going over top of that white flower. Now what I want to show you here is I can undo it. See, the glue it'll just peel off. And then if I decide I didn't like that piece there, I can just very carefully pull it out like that, take that piece out. There we go. And maybe I want it on the other side. Maybe this would be better if I put this in here. So you're not stuck. You know, you can play with this. But the beauty of it is that it will hold everything down once you've ironed it. You know, good enough for you to sew. So yeah, look at that. That's getting very interesting already. Levering up this sandwich of different fabrics that we have and popping that little flower in there because I don't want to waste it. Yeah. And so that leaves that other space pretty bare where I could put that other bit that I had if I wanted, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, I've got all of those things there, and I can then iron it, and then what happens is they're all stuck. They are sandwiched between that layer of organza on the top and all of those lovely bits and pieces, and underneath we had the curtaining and the white fabric. So right now I could pick that up and I can throw that around, it's stuck there, and that's great. And I'm mucking around now thinking, what could I put here? I still want to put something. I don't know that I liked it up in that right corner. I'm thinking maybe a stripe of it there. I'm getting ideas. So I think what we start to do now is I'll pin that so that that's where I wanted it, straight up and down there. But I'll start looking at some threads. So here we are. Here's one here, and it is perfect. Now it is a very variegated one, and I've grabbed out a pinky one, pinky peach, and I've grabbed a white stranded cotton, and that's where I'm starting. I'm using 3 strands and I'm going around these white flower shapes. Now if the glue ever gave way, we're holding it down as well as making lovely lines and just picking that design out. So I'm starting with the white, basically because I do that, I don't know where I'm going from here. And that is the least intrusive. You know, it'll just blend in. So that's why I start there. And I think, I'll keep thinking about it. Something will occur to me as I go. And it does. Next I'm grabbing this variegated thread. It's actually 3 strands woven together. I'm running my thumb down between those layers to separate one. And I'm threading a needle, putting a knot in the other end, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do a simple running stitch down one side. This is actually a folded over piece, and I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, but I'll start with the running stitch up one side and see where we go from there. I love these simple lines. It's holding it down, yes, but it's also a nice textural interest. But it's very, very pale. It matches in, and we're not really going to notice it that much. We can save that wow element for later. This is, after all, a background. So we'll speed this little bit up whilst I'm thinking. So what to do on the other side? Well, it is not folded over, so it's a raw edge. Now I could fold it under and I could make a nice straight kind of piping line there, but I don't know. It would be, it'd be a bit thick, I think. So what I'm thinking now is, no, I'll try something else. I like frayed edges, so next I try that, trying to fray the edge. And then I realize, okay, well, I've got 2 layers here. Might cut that bottom layer back a bit, and that way more of that pink colour will show through. So just trim it back close to where I did the stitching. And then the top layer, I'm thinking that I'll start taking some threads out of the side and making a frayed edge. I must admit, I am partial to a frayed edge. It'll look pretty good, I think. But that's not where I'm finishing. I'm looking at it and thinking, I do have plans for this. You can't see in my mind, so you don't know what my plans are, but I am also thinking, I'm just taking that selvage off there, that I might take a few threads out. See here, the warp and the weft. I'm just taking out some of those long threads in the center, removing them from the weave. And what happens is that we can see through it easier. So if I take out quite a few of those in the center there, I'm going to see even more of that background, and parts of it will be more obscured because of the, the full version of that fabric. Yeah, don't go thinking I'm crazy yet. I have a plan, and we'll see. But yes, I'm taking out a good bar of these threads here. You can see a line there if you really look. I know it's all a bit hard to see at the moment. So let's have a closer look. I've completed stitching up one side where it had the fold and down the other side, and that's holding it. That's enough for now. But I'm also thinking I might do a line here, and if I make it a wavy line, it's going to hold different sections of that black and the net, the silver mesh net down. So I like a wavy line, and that's what I'm doing. But you could do whatever you like. So I'm finding this really interesting, trapping different things under a sheer layer. We've really built up an interesting background there, and it is just a background. We've done a few simple running stitches, nice, easy, slow hand stitching, very therapeutic. And then I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll come back part 2, and I'll show you a little bit more about what we can do with this, because we're very, very all the one tone. We're very pale, and what we need is something a little bit more contrasting. So we'll bring that in next, and then you'll really see it come to life, I hope. Look, I hope you're enjoying this and you're getting some ideas from it, because it really is quite interesting, and it gives you a background that you can see things in and add your own personal interest to. So thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying it. If you have, don't forget to press like and subscribe, and I'll see you for part 2, where we'll do a little bit more stitching. Thanks again.